Hi, I'm Julia, and welcome back to the English Talk community. I'm really happy you're here today, and I want to start by asking you something simple but important. Have you ever wondered if it's actually possible to speak English in 30 days? Not just learning a few words, not just watching videos or reading subtitles, but truly speaking it, using your own voice, expressing your ideas, and understanding others? It's a big promise, right? And to be honest, I used to roll my eyes whenever I saw this idea online. Speak English in 30 days sounded more like a marketing trick than a realistic goal. But then I started collecting stories, talking to learners, and observing something interesting. It wasn't about becoming fluent or sounding perfect in a month. It was about making a shift. And today, I want to talk to you about that shift. Want this episode to feel honest, because I know how overwhelming English can feel sometimes. It's not just about vocabulary and grammar, it's about courage. It's about confidence. And more than anything, it's about showing up every day, even when it's uncomfortable. I've met people from different countries, different backgrounds, and different situations, and many of them tried something they'd never done before, a simple 30-day experiment. They didn't always get it right, and that's the beauty of it. Their stories show that progress isn't about perfection, it's about movement. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever started a language challenge or a new routine and stopped after a few days? Maybe you told yourself, I'll start again on Monday, or maybe next month will be better. You're not alone. We've all done that. We have great intentions, but life gets in the way. Or we try to do too much too fast and end up frustrated. That's why I love the idea of 30 days. It's short enough to feel possible, but long enough to see change. It's not magic, it's momentum. And here's the good news. You don't need to learn thousands of words or memorize grammar rules. You just need to speak. Speak a little more than yesterday. Speak even if you're not sure. Speak even if you have an accent, even if you pause, even if it sounds strange to you. That's how you get better. That's how you start feeling like someone who speaks English, not just someone who studies it. Let me be clear. This is not a quick fix. I'm not going to promise that you'll speak perfectly in 30 days. That's not the goal. The goal is to get your voice out of your head, to stop waiting for the right moment, to stop preparing and start practicing. Because practice is where the real learning happens. And if you're wondering whether it's too late for you, let me remind you, there's no perfect age, no perfect accent, no perfect background. English belongs to all of us, not just native speakers. I've heard beautiful English from people in Seoul, in Istanbul, in Berlin, in Lagos, in Mumbai. Their grammar wasn't always perfect, but their message was. That's what communication is. That's what we care about here at the English Talk community. If this sounds like something you need, I'd love for you to be part of this journey with us. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the podcast. When you do that, you help this community grow. You help us reach more people who are just like you. People who want to speak, who want to be understood, who want to stop feeling like English is holding them back. Every subscribe is one more way we keep this community alive. So thank you for doing that. Now, before we move on, I want to share something very personal with you. When I started helping people learn English, I believed the biggest obstacle was grammar. I thought people needed to study harder, remember more words, and do more drills. But the more people I met, the more I realized something else. The real obstacle wasn't knowledge. It was fear. Fear of sounding wrong. Fear of judgment. Fear of making a mistake in front of others. And do you know what breaks that fear? Speaking anyway. Sometimes we think we need to prepare more before we speak. But that's backwards. You don't get ready to speak. You get ready by speaking. Every sentence you say, even if it's short or simple, builds your confidence. Every time you say, I don't know the word for this, but I'll try, you train your brain to adapt. That's the power of trying. That's the power of effort over perfection. I want you to remember this phrase, progress, not perfection. Say it to yourself. Progress, not perfection. That's what this challenge is really about. Because if you expect perfection, you'll always be disappointed. But if you expect growth, small, daily growth, you'll be surprised at how far you go. Let me also share a little trick that many learners use. They focus on what I call survival sentences. These are phrases you use all the time. Sentences like, "Can you help me? What does this mean? I don't understand." Or, "Can you say that again?" These are your tools. They may sound basic, but they are powerful. If you can say 10 useful sentences and use them confidently, that's already speaking English. That's already a win. Another thing I want to be honest about, some days will feel boring. Some days you'll feel like you're not improving. That's part of the process. In fact, most progress in English feels invisible. You might not feel different after 3 days or even after a week. But after 30 days, if you stay consistent, you'll look back and see just how far you've come. It's not always loud. Progress. Sometimes it's quiet, but it's there. So how do you start? Just pick one sentence. One sentence that you can say out loud every day. Maybe it's, "Today I feel tired," or "I'm learning English," or "I want to speak better." It doesn't matter what the sentence is. What matters is that you say it. Don't just think it. Say it. Use your voice. Because your voice is your connection to others. It's how people hear you. It's how you show up in English. Let's talk about the phrase "speak English in 30 days," because there's a lot of confusion around what it really means. I've seen people get excited, then frustrated, because they believe the promise was fluency, or even perfection, in just 1 month. But that's not what this challenge is really about. If you expect to speak like a native with perfect grammar, no accent, and full vocabulary after 30 days, you'll probably feel disappointed. But if you shift your mindset and focus on what actually matters, confidence, clarity, and connection, you'll realize how much can change in such a short time. When I say, "speak English in 30 days," I don't mean sound like someone born in London or New York. I mean speak with your voice, your personality, your story. That's what speaking really is. It's not about copying someone else's accent or memorizing long academic phrases. It's about expressing your thoughts in a way that someone else can understand. And that doesn't take perfection. It takes intention. It takes commitment. It takes a bit of courage every single day. So let's get honest about what this challenge is and what it isn't. It's not about mastering tenses, phrasal verbs, or academic vocabulary. You won't suddenly be able to give a formal presentation or debate someone in English by day 30. That's not the point. The point is to unlock your voice, to go from silence to speaking, from hesitation to action, to stop thinking of English as a subject you study and start treating it as a tool you use. One of the biggest changes people experience during this challenge isn't in their vocabulary, it's in their mindset. Many learners I've met started with the belief that they weren't ready to speak. They thought they needed more grammar books, more time, more perfect conditions. But the truth is, waiting doesn't prepare you to speak. Speaking prepares you to speak. When you open your mouth and say something, even something small, you learn faster than when you just sit and listen. You stop being a student and start being a communicator. There's a girl named Leah from Paris who joined a 30-day challenge last year. She wasn't confident. In fact, she barely said a word in English at work, even though her job required her to write emails and attend meetings in English. She told me she always stayed quiet, afraid she'd say something wrong. But during the challenge, she made a simple rule for herself: 1 sentence a day. Just one. She would say it out loud, sometimes to herself, sometimes to her colleagues. By the end of the first week, she was saying 3 or 4 sentences without even thinking. By day 30, she was participating in meetings. Not perfectly, but clearly. That's progress. That's what it means to speak English in 30 days. Another example is Ahmed, an engineer living in Dubai. He had studied English for years, but never felt comfortable using it in conversation. He told me, "I always felt like I was studying for a test, not talking to real people." But something changed when he stopped worrying about perfect grammar and started using useful, simple phrases every day. He focused on what helped him survive in real conversations. Sentences like, "Let me check. Can you explain that?" Or, "I think we need more time." Those sentences may sound simple, but they gave him a voice. And in just 30 days, that voice grew louder, clearer, and more confident. That's the heart of this challenge. Not perfection, progress, not complexity, clarity, and definitely not silence. Connection. You don't need to say something fancy to be understood. You need to say something real. And the truth is, most real conversations in English use simple language. People don't usually speak like textbooks. They use phrases like, "I'm not sure. What do you mean? Let's try again." These are the sentences that keep conversations going. These are the sentences that help you connect. So if you're thinking about taking on this challenge, I want you to remember something. The goal isn't to impress people with your English. The goal is to connect with them, to understand and be understood. That's why I always say, clarity is more important than complexity. If someone understands you, you've succeeded. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, even if you pause, even if you make a mistake. The message is what matters. And clarity comes from practice, not perfection. Many learners waste time trying to sound like native speakers. They chase advanced vocabulary, long sentences, or specific accents. But here's something I've learned after years of teaching. Some of the most powerful speakers use the simplest words, and the most respected communicators are the ones who speak clearly, not the ones who use complicated words. So in this challenge, we focus on what works. Useful, real, everyday English. That's what builds fluency. That's what makes your English come alive. Think of this like learning to swim. You don't start by jumping into the deep end. You start by getting your feet wet, learning how to float, how to breathe. Then you take small strokes. The same goes for English. Start with what you can say now, then build from there. Each day, add a new phrase, a new word, a new sentence. Say it out loud. Use it in real situations. Repeat it until it feels natural. That's how fluency begins. And if you feel embarrassed when you speak, that's normal. Everyone feels that way at first. Even native speakers get nervous when speaking a new language. But the key is to speak anyway. Speak even when your voice shakes. Speak even when you're unsure. That's how you become stronger. That's how you build the habit. And that's what this challenge is really about. Building the habit of speaking. Not once a week. Not when you feel ready. But every day for 30 days. Because language is not something you learn and then store on a shelf. It's something you live, something you use, something you practice. That's why speaking every day, even for 5 minutes, is more powerful than studying for hours in silence. This challenge isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. It's about saying, "Today I will speak," even if it's just one sentence. So when I say speak English in 30 days, I mean this. Speak without fear. Speak with honesty. Speak with the goal of connecting. That's what matters. That's what works. And that's how change begins. Let me tell you about someone who completely changed the way he thought about speaking English. His name is Mark, and he's a 32-year-old graphic designer living in Paris. When Mark first reached out to me, he was very honest. He said, "Julia, I've been learning English since school. I understand movies, I read articles, I even write emails in English. But when it comes to speaking, I freeze. I'm scared I'll sound silly." That fear had followed him for years, and it stopped him from opening his mouth, even in situations where he really wanted to speak. Mark's story is one I hear all the time. It's not that people don't know English, it's that they don't trust themselves to use it. Mark told me that he had colleagues from the US, Canada, and India. They often spoke English during international meetings. Mark would stay quiet, hoping he wouldn't be asked to speak. He said he always felt the same panic in those moments. Heart racing, palms sweating, mind blank. And the reason? He was terrified of sounding foolish. He imagined people judging him for his mistakes, laughing at his accent, or thinking he was unprofessional. But here's the truth Mark hadn't realized yet. Most people don't care about your grammar. They care about your message. They're not looking for perfect English. They're looking for clear, human communication. I told Mark this, and for the first time, he started to see a small window of possibility. That's when he decided to take the 30-day challenge. His rule was simple. Say at least one sentence out loud in English every single day, no matter how short or awkward it felt. On day 1, Mark stood in front of his mirror and said, "I want to speak better English." That was it. He said it, then laughed at himself. I feel ridiculous, he told me later. But the point was, he did it. He spoke, and that's more than most people do on day one. The next day, he added, I want to speak better English because I want to share my ideas. Again, it was awkward, but he said it out loud. He was building a habit. Not of being perfect, but of being present. During the first week, Mark mostly practiced by himself. He spoke to the mirror, to his cat, even to his coffee mug. Just simple sentences. Today is cold. I have a meeting later. I feel tired. Nothing complicated. But something important was happening. Mark was breaking the silence. He was teaching his brain that it's okay to speak, even when it's not perfect. And by the end of the week, he no longer felt silly. He felt brave. In week 2, Mark decided to raise the challenge. He started greeting his international colleagues in English during video calls. Just a quick, "Hi, how are you?" at the start of meetings. At first, his voice was shaky, but he kept doing it. One day, one of his colleagues from Toronto replied, "I like your accent, Mark. It's great to hear you speak." That moment hit him hard. He told me, "I thought people would judge me, but they're actually kind." It was the first time he realized the fear was in his head, not in reality. That shift changed everything. He stopped waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect sentence. He started asking questions during meetings, even small ones like, "Can you repeat that?" Or, "Do you mean this?" He was using English to connect, not to impress. And that's what made the biggest difference. One sentence turned into a conversation. A moment of fear turned into a moment of confidence. Mark told me something I'll never forget. He said, "I thought I needed perfect grammar to be respected, but people respect me more now that I'm trying." By week 3, Mark was doing something he never imagined, joining after-work video calls with his English-speaking colleagues. Not just listening, but speaking, talking about design trends, sharing thoughts on projects, and even joking a little. He wasn't always fluent. He still searched for words sometimes, but he wasn't afraid anymore. That fear, the one that kept him silent for years, was losing power every time he spoke. I asked Mark what had changed the most. He said, "I stopped fighting my mistakes. I started learning from them. Every time I make a mistake and someone still understands me, I realize I don't have to be perfect." That's such an important lesson. So many people are afraid of making mistakes in English, but mistakes are how we learn. They're not proof of failure. They're proof that you're trying, that you're showing up. Mark also told me that once he let go of the fear of sounding silly, he started having fun with English. He played with new words. He tried to describe ideas with the vocabulary he had. He started watching short interviews on YouTube and repeating phrases he liked. He even started writing down one new sentence a day that he wanted to try using in real life. His challenge had become part of his routine, not as pressure, but as practice. By day 30, Mark wasn't a different person, but he was a different speaker. He didn't avoid English anymore. He welcomed it. He still made mistakes. He still paused. Sometimes. But he spoke with confidence, because he knew something he didn't believe before. People understand him, even if he's not perfect. And that belief gave him power. When I look back on Mark's journey, I see more than just progress in English. I see a mindset shift. I see someone who replaced fear with action and silence with connection. He didn't wait to feel ready. He didn't wait to be perfect. He started with one sentence, and that sentence changed his story. That's what I hope for anyone listening today. If you've ever felt like Mark, if you've avoided speaking because you're scared of sounding silly, I want you to know it's okay. That fear is normal, but it doesn't have to control you. You can take the smallest step, say the simplest sentence, and begin something powerful. Just like Mark did. Let me take a moment to talk about something that might completely shift the way you think about speaking English. It's something I call the confidence formula. Speak first, fix later. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a real, practical strategy that I've seen work over and over again. And if you've ever been afraid of speaking because you don't want to make a mistake, then this is for you. Think about this. Imagine a child learning their first language. Do they wait until they understand every grammar rule? Of course not. They speak with broken sentences, they mix up words, they use the wrong tense all the time. But they speak. And no one tells them to stop. In fact, people usually smile, encourage them, and help them along the way. And that child learns faster because they're allowed to make mistakes without fear. But when we become adults, something changes. We start thinking we have to be correct all the time. We believe that people will laugh or judge us if we say the wrong thing. That fear becomes a wall, and it stops us from opening our mouths at all. Now here's the truth. That wall doesn't come from the language. It comes from the pressure we put on ourselves. I've spoken with hundreds of learners, and almost every single one tells me the same thing. I know more than I can say. And my answer is always this: then say what you can and let it grow from there. Mark's story is a perfect example. He didn't wait to master grammar. He started with what he had. And because he spoke every day, even just one sentence, he became comfortable. And comfort leads to confidence. You don't get confident by thinking about English. You get confident by using it, even imperfectly. When you speak first and fix later, you do something very important. You put communication before correctness. And let me tell you something from experience. When people speak clearly, even with mistakes, they are almost always understood. I've worked with learners from Seoul, from Madrid, from Cairo, and from Warsaw, and the ones who improved the fastest were not the ones who studied grammar books every night. They were the ones who spoke. They used simple phrases. They repeated words. They sometimes made funny little errors, but they were brave. And bravery is what builds fluency. I remember one woman, Elena, from Bucharest. She had studied English in school for years but never spoke it. She always said, "I'm not ready." One day she told me, "Julia, I want to apply for a job that needs English, but I don't think I can." So I gave her a challenge. I said, speak 1 minute every day, record yourself. Don't stop, don't delete, don't correct, just speak. At first, she hated it. "My grammar is terrible," she said. But I reminded her, speak first, fix later. After 2 weeks, she sent me a recording where she talked about her job, her hobbies, and her favorite movie, all in English. Was it perfect? No, but it was clear. It was expressive. It was her voice. And she got the job. This is what happens when you remove the fear of making mistakes. You stop holding your breath. You stop translating in your head. You stop overthinking every verb tense. You just speak. You focus on being understood, not on being impressive. And in doing so, you start to enjoy the process. Let me give you something practical here. If you want to try this speak first, fix later approach, start with a 1-minute practice. Choose a topic. Your day, your plans, something you love. Set a timer. Speak out loud for 60 seconds. Don't worry if it's basic. Don't stop to correct yourself. Just go. Then, if you want, listen back and choose one thing to improve. Next time. One thing, not 10. Maybe it's using a better word. Maybe it's fixing your pronunciation. But always improve after the fact, not before you speak. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. And progress happens when you use your English, not just when you study it. I like to say this. Studying English is like preparing ingredients, but speaking English is like cooking the meal. You can collect all the vocabulary you want, but if you never turn on the stove, you won't taste anything. So speak. Mix your words. Burn a few sentences. It's okay. That's how you learn. Something magical happens when you decide that speaking badly is still better than not speaking at all. You begin to see your mistakes not as failures, but as steps. And the more you speak, the more natural it feels. Eventually, the words come faster. The pauses get shorter. You stop translating and start thinking in English. I've met learners who thought they were bad at English, but really, they were just silent. The minute they gave themselves permission to speak freely, their English improved more in 1 month than it had in years. That's the power of this formula. Speak first, fix later. Let the learning come after the expression. And here's one more thing I want to share with you. People are kind. I know that's not always the message we get, But in my experience, most people want to understand you. They're not sitting there waiting for you to mess up. They're hoping you'll connect with them. They're ready to listen. And when you realize that, the pressure starts to fade. You don't have to be funny or clever or brilliant in English. You just have to be real. Real words, real effort, real communication. And you'll be surprised how far that can take you. So remember this. Speak now, not later. Use the words you have. Build the habit of talking, even when it feels uncomfortable. The more you speak, the easier it becomes. And once you build that confidence, your fluency will follow. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it to grow. Let me tell you about Aisha. She's a university student from Cairo, studying architecture and juggling a schedule so packed that even 15 minutes of free time felt like a luxury. When she first reached out to our community, she told me, "Julia, I want to speak English, but I just don't have the time." That's something I hear so often. Time feels like the biggest obstacle, doesn't it? But what Aisha discovered, and what I want to share with you today, is that it's not about how much time you have. It's about what you do with the time you've got. Aisha gave herself one simple rule: learn one word a day. Just one. No pressure to study long grammar lessons. No need to memorize pages of vocabulary. She committed to learning one word and then using it in a sentence. That was it. She told herself, if I can build one sentence a day, that's 30 sentences in a month. That's 30 moments of using English. That's 30 steps forward. And that's exactly what she did. Each morning, before her first class, she would take out a small notebook and write down a new word. Sometimes it came from a podcast, sometimes from a message online, and sometimes from a conversation she overheard on the bus. Then she'd write a simple sentence using that word. And I mean simple. Things like, I enjoy music, or the bus is late. But they were hers. They were real. She built those sentences on her own, and they gave her something she had never felt before: ownership of the language. After about a week, she started to notice something strange. These words began to stick, not because she repeated them 50 times, but because she connected them with something real in her life. One day, she wrote the word library, and her sentence was, I study in the library every Thursday. That might seem basic, but when she later told me about that sentence, she said, Julia, I didn't just remember the word. I remembered the whole picture in my head. That's what happens when you create meaning with the language you're learning. By the end of the 30 days, Aisha had a small but powerful collection of vocabulary. She didn't know every word in the dictionary. She couldn't give a long presentation. But she could have short conversations, ask for directions, describe her daily routine, talk about her classes, and most importantly, she had confidence. Because she had built a habit, and that habit gave her momentum. Aisha's story is not about being fast. It's about being consistent. And consistency is what creates progress. Too often we believe that learning English means hours and hours of study every day. But for many people, especially those with jobs, school, or family responsibilities, that's just not realistic. And that's okay. What matters is not how much time you spend, but how regularly you show up. Even 15 minutes a day, done consistently, can change everything. There's a moment from Aisha's journey that I remember so clearly. It was day 27 of her challenge, and she messaged me saying, Today I spoke to a tourist in English. He asked me where to buy food, and I answered. I used words I learned this month. I didn't plan it, I just did it. That one interaction, that one success, made all the difference. It gave her a taste of real communication. And once you get that taste, it's hard to go back. I want you to think about that for a second. Could you give yourself 15 minutes a day? Could you choose one word, make one sentence, and stick with it for 30 days? Think about what you could build. You don't need to wait for the perfect time. You don't need to wait for a free weekend or a long vacation. If you have a phone, a notebook, and a little determination, you have everything you need. This method works because it's simple and achievable. You don't burn out. You don't feel overwhelmed. And you don't need to be perfect. That's something I always come back to. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is. Aisha made progress because she let go of the idea that she had to be fluent right away. She gave herself permission to start small. And starting small is often the smartest way to begin. Another thing Aisha did that I found really helpful is she used her environment. She didn't just study words from textbooks. She looked around her world. When she saw something new in English, like a sign or a menu, she took note. When she heard a new word, she didn't ignore it. She made it part of her routine. English became part of her day, not something separate, and that's powerful. Because the more you integrate English into your life, the less it feels like a subject, and the more it feels like a tool. One of her favorite tricks was to review her list of 30 words every Sunday. She would take 10 minutes, read through them, and try to say each one in a sentence without looking. And if she forgot one, that was okay. She'd just review it again. She didn't beat herself up. She didn't quit. She kept going. One word at a time, one habit at a time. When I look at Aisha's journey, I see someone who made a smart, realistic choice and followed through with it. She didn't do anything dramatic. She didn't sign up for expensive courses or spend hours on complicated grammar. She just committed to showing up daily with intention. And in the end, that made the biggest difference. If you're listening right now and you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or discouraged, I want you to remember Aisha. Remember that even with limited time, even with a busy life, you can move forward. You can build something meaningful. You can start today with just one word. The important thing is that you start. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Choose a word, any word. Use it in a sentence. Speak it out loud, write it down, make it part of your life, and do it again tomorrow. Because every small action you take in English is a step closer to the speaker you want to become. And you don't have to do it alone. You're part of a community that believes in progress, in showing up, and in celebrating every step of the journey. When I first talked to Aisha, I could tell she wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't chasing fast results or trying to prove something. She just wanted to move forward. And that's what made her different. Her strategy wasn't about being the best student or studying for hours. It was about showing up every single day and doing one small thing. It sounds simple, maybe even too simple. But what she did is what I now call one of the most powerful habits you can build in your English journey. Start small, stay consistent. Let me explain how that works. Aisha had exactly 15 minutes each day. That's not much, right? But instead of worrying about what she couldn't do, she focused on what she could. She told herself, if I can learn one sentence today, I've succeeded. No pressure, no stress, just one sentence. She would choose one word, learn it, and create a simple sentence. Then she would say it out loud 3 times. That was her whole system. At first, she wondered if it would be enough. She told me she felt silly sometimes. Julia, can one sentence really make a difference? But here's what's so powerful about this method. On the first day, it's just 1 sentence. On the second day, it's 2. On the third, 3. By the end of the first week, she had 7 new sentences she could use. 7 new ways to express herself. And they weren't just random phrases from a textbook. They were her sentences. They connected to her life, her thoughts, her experiences. This kind of learning sticks because it's personal. That's the real secret Aisha discovered. When you create something in your own words, your brain holds on to it. It's not passive learning anymore. You're not just memorizing, you're building. You're shaping your own English voice, one piece at a time. And the more personal it is, the more meaningful it becomes. Aisha's consistency created a rhythm. After 2 weeks, her routine felt automatic. She didn't have to push herself. It became part of her morning, like brushing her teeth or checking her messages. That's another reason this method works so well. You're not relying on motivation. You're building a habit. And habits don't need you to feel inspired every day. They just need you to show up. I want to ask you something. Can you learn 1 sentence a day? Just 1. Imagine this. You wake up, grab your notebook or phone, find 1 new word, and create a sentence. Maybe today's word is weather. So you write, "The weather is nice today." You say it out loud a few times. That's it. You're done. Now imagine, you do that tomorrow and the day after and the next day. After 30 days, you don't just have 30 sentences. You have a routine. You have confidence. You have momentum. When people think about learning English in 30 days, they usually imagine something intense. Hours of lessons, long grammar drills, huge vocabulary lists. And sure, some people might be able to handle that. But for most of us, it's not realistic. Life is busy. Energy runs low. Time slips away. And when you try to do too much, you burn out. You quit. That's why Aisha's method works. It fits into your life, not the other way around. Let me give you an example of how she used this in daily life. On day 12, she learned the word tired. Her sentence was, "I feel tired after studying." That day, after a long class at the university, she repeated her sentence out loud as she walked home. She laughed when she told me that. It was true, she said, and saying it in English made it feel more real. That's another benefit of these small steps. You begin to use English to describe your own life. And when that happens, English becomes more than a language. It becomes a tool for expression. She also did something else I recommend to everyone in our community. At the end of each week, she reviewed her sentences. Just 5 or 10 minutes. She didn't test herself. She just read them again, said them out loud, and smiled at the progress. That moment of looking back and seeing how far you've come, that's a powerful motivator. It shows you that your effort is building something. You can see it, hear it, feel it. And here's something I really want you to take with you from this story. You don't need big wins to feel successful. You need small daily proof that you're showing up. Learning one sentence a day doesn't feel like much, but after a month, it's 30 new ways to speak. After 2 months, it's 60. That's not just progress. That's a foundation. Aisha told me she never thought of herself as someone who could speak English. But after her first month, she started saying things like, "I speak a little English now." And that change in identity, from someone who is learning to someone who can speak, is everything. It shifts your mindset. It opens new doors. It makes you brave enough to try. If you're wondering how to start your own 30-day challenge, begin just like Aisha did. Pick one word, keep it simple. Build a sentence that means something to you. Say it out loud, write it down, and come back tomorrow. The magic is in the repetition. The growth comes from the habit. It doesn't matter if your sentence is perfect. What matters is that you made it and you used it. This is your journey, and you get to decide how to walk it. You don't have to rush. You don't have to impress anyone. You just have to be consistent. And if you ever feel stuck, come back to this one thought: can I learn one sentence today? If the answer is yes, then you're already winning. You're not alone in this. You're part of a global community that understands the power of small steps. We've seen how they change lives. And just like Aisha, you can build something real with just 15 minutes a day. So wherever you are right now, I want you to believe that progress is possible, not someday, today. One sentence at a time. When people ask me, "Julia, what's the fastest way to speak better English?" I always pause before answering because the truth is so simple that many people ignore it. It's not a fancy app or a secret grammar trick. It's this: speak every day. And if you don't have someone to talk to, speak to yourself. Yes, really. Talk to yourself out loud in English. It's one of the most powerful habits you can build. And yet, so many people feel strange doing it. Let me tell you why you shouldn't. When you speak to yourself, something special happens in your brain. You stop being a passive learner. You stop waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect partner. You become your own practice partner, your own coach. And this shift is where the real growth begins. You're not just thinking in English, you're activating it. You're giving your thoughts a voice, and that's when the language starts to stick. I used to think speaking to yourself was a little silly too. It felt awkward. But then I started paying attention to how people who made fast progress learned. And I noticed something surprising. Almost every one of them had some version of this habit. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They created small daily moments where they spoke out loud. Some did it in the shower, some while walking, some even while cooking. They weren't having long conversations. They were simply naming what they saw, what they felt, what they were doing. Imagine this. You wake up and look around your room. You say, "I see my bed. It is messy. I need to clean it." You walk to the kitchen and say, "I am making coffee. I like coffee in the morning." That's not a lesson. That's life. And it's real. It's you, using English in your world. It might sound basic, but it's exactly what makes your brain connect the language with your daily experience. And that's when fluency starts to grow. When I was interviewing people for this episode, I heard this pattern over and over again. People who made fast progress didn't just study, they spoke, even if no one was around. I remember talking to Satoshi, an accountant from Tokyo, who told me that his commute was his classroom. Every morning on the train, he would look around and describe things quietly under his breath. The train is full. That man is reading. The woman is tired. Simple phrases, yes, but they were his phrases. They were connected to the world around him. After 3 weeks, he started dreaming in English. That's how deep the connection became. Speaking daily creates something very important: confidence. You hear your voice in English. You get used to it. You stop feeling nervous about how you sound. That fear, the one that stops so many people from trying, it starts to fade. Because now English isn't just something in your head. It's something you use. You say it, you hear it, and little by little, it becomes natural. This practice also trains your brain in a very smart way. When you speak out loud, you activate multiple parts of your brain at once: listening, speaking, thinking, even memory. You are building neural connections that are stronger than the ones built by silent reading or passive listening. It's like exercise. The more muscles you use, the stronger you get. And when it comes to learning a language, speaking is the full body workout. I want to share something else I've noticed. When you speak daily, your vocabulary grows without effort. Here's how it works. You're talking to yourself and suddenly you want to describe something but don't know the word. Let's say you're walking and want to say, "The street is narrow," but you don't know the word narrow. You feel stuck. But that feeling creates curiosity. Later, you look it up. And because you wanted to use it in a real moment, you remember it. That's what I call vocabulary with purpose. Words you look up because they matter to you, not because they were in a textbook. Another benefit is that you start to build your own sentence patterns. You stop translating from your native language. Instead, you start forming English sentences directly. This shift is huge. It means your brain is adapting. You're not just learning English, you're thinking in English. And once that happens, speaking becomes faster, smoother, more natural. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but I feel silly talking to myself. And I get it. We're not used to it. It feels strange. But let me ask you this. Which is more important, avoiding a moment of awkwardness or making real progress? Because I promise you, the people who speak well didn't get there by feeling comfortable all the time. They got there by doing things that felt a little weird at first. And this is one of those things that's worth it. You don't need to do it for hours. 5 minutes a day is enough to start. Talk about what you're doing. Describe the room. Say what you're feeling. Imagine you're telling someone about your day. Today was a good day. I finished my work early. I watched a movie. It was funny. That's English. That's practice. And no one needs to hear you but you. If you like structure, here's a simple routine you can try. In the morning, describe your plan for the day. In the afternoon, describe what you're doing. In the evening, describe what you did. That's it. 3 small speaking moments. They add up, and over time, they build fluency. You can also combine this with journaling. After you say your sentences out loud, write them down. Or read them aloud from your notebook. This gives you both speaking and writing practice. It also helps you track your progress. You'll be surprised how much you can say after a few weeks. Another tip is to record your voice. Use your phone. Press record and talk for 1 minute. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but over time you'll hear your improvement. And there's something powerful about hearing your own voice in a new language. It makes everything feel real. Remember, you're not waiting for permission. You're not waiting for a perfect situation. You already have everything you need to start. Your voice, your thoughts, your daily life. Use them. Speak to yourself every day. And watch how your English grows from the inside out. Diego's story is one I find truly inspiring because it shows how small habits, even with limited time, can lead to big results. Diego is an engineer from Madrid, a a city full of energy and life. But like many of us, he had a busy schedule. Working full-time, it was hard for him to find hours to attend English classes or join long conversations. So instead of waiting for the perfect time or setting, Diego created his own practice space using something simple, his phone and voice notes. Every night for 30 days straight, he recorded himself speaking English. It started with just a few sentences, sometimes reading from notes, sometimes just talking about his day. At first, his voice was hesitant, full of pauses and hesitation. But he didn't stop. This simple daily action became his secret weapon. By the time he reached day 15, Diego noticed something remarkable. He was speaking with more ease. The long pauses between words were fewer, and his sentences started flowing more naturally. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. More importantly, he realized his brain was starting to think in English. This is a huge step, because thinking in the language you're learning means less translation and faster responses. His practice was not about getting every word right, but about making English a part of his daily routine, a part of his mindset. I love how Diego's method fits into a busy lifestyle, because it shows you don't need hours of free time or fancy apps. Just a few minutes every day, focused on speaking, can move you forward. I often hear from people who say, "I'm too busy," or "I don't have anyone to practice with." Diego's story is a great example of how to break those excuses. Using voice notes lets you practice whenever you can, on the train, during a break, or before bed. And because you're speaking to yourself, there's no pressure, no fear of judgment. It's a safe space to experiment and improve. Recording yourself also gives you a chance to hear your progress. At first, it might be uncomfortable listening to your own voice, but over time, you start noticing improvements. Diego told me that listening back to his recordings helped him spot repeated mistakes, notice new words he was using, and celebrate small wins. This self-awareness is crucial because it makes learning active instead of passive. You're not just repeating, you're learning and correcting as you go. What's also powerful about Diego's story is that he used a technology that many of us already have, but don't use fully for language learning. Voice notes are simple and accessible. You don't need expensive tools, special programs, or a teacher always by your side. You just need to press record and start talking. This makes practicing speaking much less intimidating. It becomes a habit, something easy to do every day without disrupting your life. Diego also combined this habit with other small steps. He listened to English podcasts during his commute, read a little every day, and tried to think in English when possible. But the core of his progress was that daily speaking practice through voice notes. It gave him a chance to hear his own voice in English and get used to forming sentences on the spot. This helped him build fluency, which is really about being comfortable with the language, not about perfection. I want you to think about Diego's experience for a moment. What can you do today with your phone to practice speaking? Can you record a short voice note telling me what you did today? Maybe a sentence or two about your plans? This small step might feel strange, but it's powerful. It's a way to build a daily habit that fits your life, no matter how busy you are. And remember, it's not about sounding perfect. It's about sounding confident and clear. Another thing Diego noticed was that voice notes helped him get out of the silent learner zone. Many people spend years studying English without speaking, and that's where progress slows down. Speaking out loud, even just to yourself, creates new connections in your brain and prepares you for real conversations. Diego's method helped him move from being silent to becoming a speaker, even without a classroom or speaking partner. So if you feel stuck or shy about speaking English, consider this approach. Start recording yourself. Don't worry about grammar mistakes or pronunciation. Focus on expressing your thoughts and getting used to hearing your own English voice. After a few days, try to listen back and notice any changes. You might be surprised by how quickly your confidence grows. Diego's story is a reminder that speaking English doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. It's about consistent, simple practice that fits into your daily routine. With just 30 days of voice notes, he changed how he spoke and thought in English. And you can too. Just start today. One of the biggest challenges I see among English learners is overthinking. I know this feeling well, and I want to tell you something that can really change your approach to speaking English. Don't think too much. It sounds simple, But the habit of analyzing every word, worrying about grammar, or searching for the perfect sentence can stop you from speaking at all. Instead, focus on using automatic phrases. These are phrases you practice until they become second nature. They are your tools for communication, not just random sentences to memorize. When you learn English, you might feel like you need to invent sentences from scratch every time you speak. But that's a huge mental load and it slows you down. What if instead you had a small set of ready-to-use phrases that you could pull out anytime? Phrases like, "I'd like some water," or "Can you help me with this?" are practical, useful, and they get you communicating immediately. These phrases help you stay in the conversation without freezing up. They reduce the pressure to create perfect grammar or find the exact word because you already know a phrase that works in many situations. Let me share a story to explain this better. I once met Lena, a marketing specialist from Warsaw. She told me how much she struggled with speaking because she tried to create original sentences every time. She was afraid of sounding repetitive or boring, but when she switched her approach to learning automatic phrases, everything changed. Lena began by learning 10 simple phrases she could use at work, at the grocery store, or even in casual chats. She practiced them until they felt natural. The result? She started speaking with more confidence because she knew exactly what to say, even if it was simple. You see, these phrases become building blocks. When you master one phrase, you don't need to construct a sentence from zero. You can rely on what you already know and then gradually add more words or details. For example, "Can you help me with this?" is a complete question, but you can also extend it if you want. "Can you help me with this report?" Or, "Can you help me with this problem?" Once you feel comfortable, you can mix and match phrases and words to sound more natural. But the key is to start with the basics and use them often. The power of automatic phrases also comes from the fact that they reduce your mental load. When you speak a new language, your brain works hard to find words, form sentences, and make sure you're correct. If you try to invent everything on the spot, it can feel overwhelming. Automatic phrases help by giving you ready answers. It's like having a toolkit for conversations. When someone asks you a question, you don't have to think for a long time. You can respond quickly and clearly because you already have the phrase in your pocket. One tip I always give is to practice these phrases aloud, even when you're alone. Speaking out loud trains your mouth, your tongue, and your brain to remember the sounds and rhythms of English. This practice builds muscle memory, making it easier to use the phrases naturally when you talk to other people. It's also great for building confidence because you'll feel prepared. Another important point is to choose phrases that are useful for your daily life. Think about situations you face regularly and find phrases that fit. For example, if you often order food, learn phrases like, "I'd like the chicken, please," or "Can I have the bill?" If you work in an office, learn phrases like, "Let me check that for you," or "Could you send me the file?" By focusing on phrases that fit your life, you make your learning practical and motivating. Automatic phrases can also help you in tricky moments. Sometimes when you don't know what to say next, a phrase like, "Could you please repeat that?" or "I'm sorry, I didn't understand," can save the conversation. These phrases are polite and useful. They keep the conversation going and give you time to think without feeling embarrassed. You might wonder if relying on phrases is limiting or if it means you won't learn grammar. The truth is that learning automatic phrases and grammar are not opposites. They work together. Phrases give you confidence and communication tools. Grammar helps you understand why sentences work and how to create your own sentences later. Starting with phrases is often easier and more practical, especially if your goal is to speak and be understood quickly. When I first learned English, I remember feeling stuck because I wanted to be perfect. I thought I had to create perfect sentences every time I opened my mouth. But then I started memorizing phrases I heard in conversations or movies, and that made a big difference. I realized I could speak clearly even if my grammar wasn't perfect. People focused on understanding me, not judging my mistakes. That shift helped me relax and enjoy speaking more. So here is a simple challenge for you. Pick 5 phrases you find useful today. Practice saying them aloud. Use them in conversations or even when talking to yourself. Notice how easy it becomes to express your ideas. The more you repeat them, the more automatic they become. Eventually, you'll find yourself speaking more naturally and with less hesitation. Remember, language is a tool for connection. Automatic phrases help you connect faster and with less stress. They are the bridge between knowing English and speaking English. Don't overthink or aim for perfect grammar at the start. Focus on speaking clearly and confidently. Your goal is to communicate and be understood. Phrases give you the power to do just that. I want you to imagine your own toolbox filled with useful English phrases. Each phrase is a key that opens a door to conversation. The more keys you have, the easier it is to open many doors. And the great part is, you can always add new phrases as you grow. You don't need to carry all the keys at once. Start with a few and build from there. As you use these phrases, you will notice your brain working differently. You start recognizing patterns and sentence structures without trying hard. This automaticity frees your mind to focus on the conversation's meaning instead of grammar rules. That's when speaking becomes fun and natural. One more thing. Don't be afraid to repeat phrases often. Repetition is not boring in language. Learning, it's necessary. When you repeat, your brain strengthens the connections that make speech automatic. The more automatic your speech, the faster you can respond in real conversations. So when you practice today, keep in mind that using automatic phrases is a smart strategy. It gives you confidence, clarity, and speed. It helps you speak English, even if you don't know every word or grammar rule. And it makes learning English less stressful and more enjoyable. Just try it and see the difference for yourself. I want to tell you about Anya, a barista from Warsaw, who found an unusual but effective way to improve her English speaking skills in just 30 days. Like many of us, she was eager to speak better English but felt stuck, unsure how to practice speaking naturally and confidently. What Anya discovered was a technique called shadowing, and it completely changed her approach to learning English. Shadowing means repeating or mimicking someone's speech right after they say it, almost like you are their voice. It's a method that helps with pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation, things that often feel difficult to master when you're learning a new language. But what makes Anya's story really inspiring is how she applied shadowing using English songs and YouTube videos that she genuinely enjoyed. Anya started with songs because music is everywhere in her life. Every day, during her breaks at work, or while walking in the city, she listened to her favorite English songs. At first, she simply paid attention to the words and melodies, but soon she tried to repeat the lyrics right after hearing them. She wasn't perfect, and sometimes she stumbled over tricky sounds, but she didn't let that stop her. She practiced. This daily, repeating the chorus or a verse several times until she could say it almost like the original singer. The more she practiced, the more she noticed her mouth getting used to the English sounds and rhythm. It was like her brain was tuning into a new language station that had been static before. Besides songs, Anya found some interesting YouTube videos with native English speakers talking about topics she liked. She picked videos that weren't too long but had clear speech. Every day, she watched a video and tried to repeat sentences right after the speaker, matching their tone and pace as closely as possible. Sometimes she paused the video to catch up, and other times she shadowed without stopping, which was more challenging. This method helped her practice real conversational English, not just scripted phrases or textbook sentences. By doing this, Anya got used to the natural flow of English and how people actually speak in real life. One important part of Anya's success was choosing content she loved. She didn't force herself to practice with materials that felt boring or difficult. Instead, she listened to songs that made her feel happy, or videos about subjects that interested her, like travel and cooking. This made her practice enjoyable and something she looked forward to every day. The key to keeping up with a 30-day challenge is not just consistency, but also motivation, and loving the content is a big part of that. When you like what you're listening to, it's easier to stay engaged and keep practicing even when you're tired or busy. Through shadowing, Anya not only improved her pronunciation, but also gained more confidence in speaking English. Before she started, she would hesitate to speak because she was afraid of making mistakes or sounding strange. But after practicing by repeating songs and videos, she felt more comfortable making English sounds and using natural speech patterns. This confidence grew day by day because she knew she was training her voice and brain to work together in English. It's amazing how much progress you can make just by listening and repeating out loud every day. I want to highlight that Anya's shadowing practice was not about perfection. She didn't expect to sound exactly like a native speaker after 30 days, and neither should you. The goal was to build familiarity and comfort with the language. The more she practiced, the less she worried about mistakes, and the more she enjoyed expressing herself in English. Shadowing helped her develop a natural rhythm and flow in her speech, which is often more important than flawless grammar. Another interesting thing about shadowing is that it helps your brain connect sounds with meaning more quickly. When you listen and repeat, you are training your ear to recognize English sounds, and at the same time, you're training your mouth to produce those sounds correctly. This dual action speeds up learning and makes speaking feel more automatic. Anya noticed that after a few weeks, she started thinking in English more often, which is a big step toward fluency. If you want to try shadowing like Anya, start by choosing something simple and fun. It can be a song you like or a short video from a YouTube channel you enjoy. Listen carefully and try to repeat the words as soon as you hear them. Don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. Practice the same piece several times, until it feels natural. If you feel tired or frustrated, switch to a different song or video. Keep the practice short but consistent. Even just 10 minutes a day can make a difference. Shadowing is also great because you can do it anywhere. You don't need a classroom or a conversation partner. You just need your phone or computer and some time to listen and speak out loud. This makes it perfect for busy people like Anya, who work full days but still want to improve their English. It's a flexible method that fits easily into daily routines. As you practice shadowing, pay attention to how your pronunciation and intonation improve. Try to copy the rhythm and stress of the words, not just the sounds. English is a musical. Language, and getting the melody right, helps you sound more natural and makes it easier for others to understand you. Over time, this practice builds up your speaking skills without feeling like hard work. Anya's story shows us that you don't need expensive courses or complicated methods to improve your English quickly. You need a simple, enjoyable habit that fits your life and keeps you motivated. Shadowing is one of those habits. It's fun, practical, and incredibly effective. By repeating songs and videos every day, Anya gave herself the chance to sound more natural and confident in English. She didn't wait for perfection, she just kept practicing, and that made all the difference. So, if you're looking for a way to speak English more naturally, why not try shadowing? Find songs or videos that you love and start repeating them today. Notice how your mouth and brain start working together in a new way. It's a powerful way to improve your pronunciation and gain confidence, even if you have only 10 or 15 minutes a day. Remember, the key is consistency and enjoying what you do. Just like Anya, you can build your English skills by practicing every day with content you like. This simple practice can help you speak more smoothly and feel more comfortable in conversations. Keeps in mind that everyone learns differently, so take your time to find songs or videos that motivate you. Experiment with different styles and speakers until you find what fits best for you. And don't be afraid to repeat your favorite parts many times. Repetition is how your brain learns. It's not about rushing, but about steady progress. Anya's experience is a great reminder that learning English doesn't have to be boring or stressful. You can have fun and improve at the same time. The secret is to find a method that feels right for you and stick with it. Shadowing helped Anya develop natural rhythm and pronunciation in English, and it can do the same for you. So go ahead and give it a try. Your voice is waiting to sound confident and clear. I want to talk to you today about something that might surprise you, but is actually very important when it comes to learning English, or any language for that matter. It's about fun, and more specifically, how making your English learning fun can actually help you remember what you learn much better. You might think that learning a language means hours of hard study, drills, and endless grammar rules, but I'm here to tell you that the best learning happens when you enjoy the process. Emotion fuels memory, and when you feel good about what you're doing, your brain is more ready to absorb new information and keep it for the long term. Let me start by sharing something I've seen in many learners around the world. People who find ways to connect with English through things they love, like music, movies, games, or topics they're passionate about, tend to improve faster. Why? Because their brains associate English with positive feelings. When you're laughing, singing, or genuinely curious, Your brain is in a state that makes it easier to remember new words and phrases. It's like the difference between studying vocabulary from a boring list versus learning words while watching a funny video or listening to a catchy song. The latter sticks with you much more. I remember talking to Leah from Istanbul, who told me that the moment she started watching English comedy shows and laughing out loud, her vocabulary grew without her even trying hard. She didn't feel like she was studying. She was just enjoying herself. That joy created a strong connection between the words she heard and the emotions she felt, and that made it easier to recall those words later when speaking. Learning in a way that feels like play, not pressure, makes all the difference. Think about children learning their first language. They learn by playing, by exploring sounds and words in joyful environments. They don't sit down with grammar books and vocabulary lists. Instead, they engage emotionally with their surroundings, and that helps them absorb language naturally. We can do the same with English. When you find joy in your learning, your brain is more motivated and energized, which boosts your memory and your ability to use English spontaneously. Another example comes from Omar, a software developer in Seoul. He found that by turning his English practice into a game, like competing with friends on who could learn more new words in a week, or making up funny stories using new phrases, he was able to keep learning even on days he felt tired or unmotivated. The element of fun kept him coming back. When learning feels like a game, you're not only building skills but also training your brain to enjoy the challenge instead of dreading it. Emotion also helps you remember the context in which you learned something. If you learn a new phrase, while watching a gripping scene in a movie or during a fun conversation with a friend, that phrase becomes tied to the feelings you had in that moment. Later, when you want to use it, your brain recalls not just the words but also the feelings and the situation, making it easier and more natural to say. This is why learning through stories, songs, and enjoyable conversations is so powerful. Now, how can you bring more fun into your English learning? Start by choosing content that excites you. If you like music, find English songs and genres you love and listen actively, trying to understand and sing along. If you enjoy stories, pick shorts, shows, podcasts, or books that capture your interest. When you're curious and emotionally involved, your brain lights up and learning becomes a natural part of your day. Another tip is to involve friends or family. Learning together or sharing what you discover in English with others can make the experience more lively and enjoyable. You might create little challenges, like a vocabulary quiz or storytelling contests. Social interaction adds emotion to learning because you feel connected, supported, and motivated. It's also important to let go of the idea that learning English must be serious all the time. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, joke around with words, or even be silly. Sometimes the best memories come from moments when you laughed at your own errors or had fun trying new sounds. Those moments stick with you and encourage you to keep going. Remember, learning is a long journey and maintaining motivation can be tough. When you incorporate fun, you're adding fuel to your motivation tank. It's like turning a task into an adventure. You wake up looking forward to your next English practice because it's not a chore, but something that brings you joy and satisfaction. From my own experience and from so many learners I've met, the emotional connection to what you're learning is a secret ingredient that can turn your 30-day challenge into a lifelong habit. When you enjoy your English practice, it stops being a challenge and becomes a part of your life you cherish. This is when true progress happens, and that progress will feel rewarding every step of the way. So I encourage you to explore what makes English learning fun for you. Experiment with songs, stories, games, or conversations. Notice how your memory improves when you feel engaged and happy. Keep that feeling alive and use it to push through moments when learning feels difficult. When you enjoy your learning process, your brain remembers better, and your speaking becomes more natural and confident. That's the power of emotion in language learning. I want to share with you the story of Riku, a student from Tokyo, who found a simple but powerful way to improve his English during a 30-day challenge. What he did was something we can all try. He kept a daily English journal. But it wasn't just any journal. Every day, no matter how busy or tired he was, Riku wrote down 5 lines about his thoughts, and then he spoke those lines out loud. He called this his no excuse rule. This means that every single day, without fail, he practiced writing and speaking English, even if it was just a few sentences. What I love about Riku's method is its simplicity and commitment. He didn't need extra time or fancy tools, just a notebook, a little time each day, and a promise to himself that he wouldn't skip. At first, he admitted it was hard. Some days he was exhausted after school and work, and his brain just wanted to rest. But he pushed through. Writing 5 simple sentences and speaking them aloud took only a few minutes, but doing it consistently made a huge difference. Riku's journal entries were personal. He wrote about his day, his feelings, small observations, or plans. For example, he might write, "Today I walked in the park. The weather was nice. I saw many people smiling. I felt happy. I want to learn more English tomorrow." These sentences were not complicated, but by expressing his thoughts daily in English, he began organizing ideas more clearly and naturally in the language. This practice helped him connect his English to his own life, which made it more meaningful and easier to remember. One of the most interesting things Riku noticed was that after a few weeks, his thoughts in English started to flow more smoothly, not only when writing, but also when speaking spontaneously. Because he had been expressing himself out loud every day, the sounds and rhythms of English became more familiar. This daily habit trained his brain to think in English, rather than translating from his native language first. That shift is what many learners aim for, but find difficult to reach. Riku's no-excuse journal also helped him overcome common fears. Many learners worry about making mistakes when speaking or writing, but since this journal was just for himself, he felt safe to experiment, to make errors, and to learn from them without pressure. This freedom to try and fail is essential to gaining confidence. Over time, he noticed that the fear of mistakes lessened, replaced by a growing excitement to express his ideas in English. Another benefit Riku shared was that this method helped him become more aware of his daily progress. Seeing a month's worth of entries gave him a real sense of accomplishment. Even on days when he felt like he wasn't improving, he could look back and read earlier entries and realize how far he had come. That sense of progress is a huge motivation booster, something we all need when learning a language. I think what makes Riku's approach so practical is that it fits into everyday life. You don't need special classes or hours of study. You just need a little time, a notebook or phone app, and a commitment to be consistent. You don't need perfect grammar or complicated vocabulary, just simple sentences that connect with your daily experience and feelings. This makes English learning manageable and less overwhelming. If you're worried about speaking alone, like Riku, try speaking your journal sentences out loud every day. It might feel strange at first, but that small act gets your mouth and brain used to producing English sounds and structures. It's a private moment that builds your speaking muscle in a safe space. Over time, speaking aloud will feel more natural and confident, helping you when it's time to talk to others. Riku's story also reminds us that learning a language is about habit and mindset. The no-excuse rule is not about being harsh or pushing too hard. It's about gently encouraging yourself to keep moving forward, no matter what. That attitude makes learning part of your lifestyle. Even if you feel tired or busy, taking just a few minutes to write and speak English keeps your skills alive and growing. Many learners get stuck waiting for the perfect moment to practice, or they give up when progress feels slow. But Riku's experience shows that regular, small efforts add up. Consistency beats intensity. Doing a little every day, especially in a way that involves both writing and speaking, helps you internalize English faster and more naturally. If you decide to try the No Excuse Journal, remember to keep it simple and personal. Write about things that matter to you, your day, your thoughts, what you notice around you, or your plans. Speak those sentences out loud as if you're telling a friend. Don't worry about mistakes. They are part of learning. The key is to keep going, day after day. I love that Riku found a method that works for him and that anyone can adopt. This is the kind of practical, doable step that can make the difference between wishing to speak English and actually speaking English. The power is in the daily habit, the commitment to express yourself in English, and the courage to keep trying no matter what. So, think about how you can create your own no-excuse rule. What small daily practice can you commit to, even on your busiest or toughest days? Writing and speaking just 5 lines might be all it takes to start building your fluency and confidence. Give it a try and see how your English changes over the next 30 days. Now it's your turn. I want you to remember this one thing. Don't aim for perfection. So many people get stuck waiting to say the perfect sentence, to have perfect grammar, or to sound just like a native speaker. But that's not the goal. The goal is progress. Even small steps forward are wins. If you speak just one sentence today, and then speak again tomorrow, you'll be amazed at what happens after 30 days. It may sound simple, but it's powerful. Repetition and practice are the real keys to unlocking your English speaking ability. Think back to the stories we shared in today's episode. Mark from Paris overcame his fear of sounding silly by simply speaking out loud, one sentence at a time. Aisha from Cairo built her vocabulary through tiny daily habits, one word and one sentence a day. Diego from Madrid used voice notes to himself to make speaking English part of his daily routine. Anya from Warsaw found joy and progress by learning through songs and shadowing. Riku from Tokyo committed to a daily journal with his no excuse rule and saw his thoughts in English grow clearer. These are real people with real lives, just like you. They didn't start with perfect English, but they all made progress because they practiced consistently and made English part of their everyday lives. So now I want you to reflect. What part of today's episode inspired you the most? Was it the idea of starting small, or maybe the power of speaking to yourself daily? Maybe you like the idea of having a simple, no-excuse rule like Riku's journal? Whatever it is, think about how you can take that idea and make it your own. Your English journey is unique, and what works for one person might need a little adjustment for you. But the important thing is to start. Start with something manageable. It could be a single sentence, a short voice note, or even a few lines in a journal. The key is to keep going every day. Remember, learning English is a journey, not a race. There will be days when it feels easier and days when it feels tough. That's completely normal. What matters is showing up for yourself each day and practicing, even if just a little bit. Progress is built one day at a time, and your commitment adds up over weeks and months. The habit you build now will create a strong foundation for your future English skills. We're here to support you every step of the way. If today's episode helped you, please consider subscribing to the English Talk community so you won't miss future tips and stories. Your subscription helps more people find our community and join this journey with us. Also, leaving a review or sharing your thoughts on this episode is a great way to encourage others who might be struggling. You never know who might be inspired by your words. Finally, keep practicing. Make English a part of your daily routine. Speak out loud, write down your thoughts, listen to English songs, watch short videos, or use any method that feels good to you. The more you expose yourself to English and use it actively, the faster you will see improvement. And don't forget to be kind to yourself. Learning a language is challenging, but it's also exciting and rewarding. So here's your simple challenge. Speak one sentence in English today. Then speak another tomorrow. Keep that promise to yourself for 30 days. Track your progress if you like. Celebrate your wins, no matter how small they seem. You're building a skill that opens doors, connects you with people all over the world, and changes your life. Thank you for being part of the English Talk community. I'm Julia, and I'm proud of every step you take toward speaking English confidently. Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and remember, we are all learning together.